Get started. All right, welcome everyone. Tonight's the Southside Community Council Development Activities Meeting. The Southside Community Council is a registered community organization via the city of Pittsburgh. We have one meeting tonight from Somera Road. The purpose of the meeting is to give citizens, property owners, business owners, and stakeholders an opportunity to learn about the proposals that affect them and resolve any concerns at an early age in the application process as it relates to projects going in front of zoning that meet certain requirements and the Historic Review Committee in relation to the East Carson Street corridor. And so I think we're going to, Philip, do you go over how to participate in the DAM if you are a presenter or a guest?
Yeah, I'll go over this slide. Thanks, Jackie. As Jackie mentioned, I'll be going over a few pointers here, participating in the Zoom meeting. First, if anyone has any technical issues or needs any assistance, you can use the Q&A tool or the chat feature to ping me and I'll try to help you out. For any questions for the presenters tonight, you can use either the Q&A tool or the chat feature to type out your question, or if you would like to speak it out loud, you can raise your hand and we'll call on you to speak. If you're calling in by phone, you can press *9 and that will allow you to raise your hand by phone. For our presenters, we ask that you be mindful of anyone who might not be in front of their computers or who are listening on audio only, and to try to best describe what's on each of your slides. Lastly, we are recording this meeting for the Southside Community Council to share online with any interested stakeholders who are not able to attend tonight. And I think we can get started. If someone from the Somera Road or AE7 team would like to share your presentation.
Sure. Teresa, I'll ask you to share the presentation if you could. And Teresa, you are on mute just in case you go to speak. So good evening, everyone. I'm Chris McCune with Somera Road, and with me are Teresa Fuco and Nathan Lutz with AE7. They're going to do the heavy lift on the presentation here, but I thought I'd kick it off with an introduction. Happy to be with you all again. We've been together a few times on some of the different projects over the past year and a half. We're excited to present a proposal to you all involving some more activation of the green space on Tunnel Boulevard. This time a public amenity in the way of a sport court, a multi-sport court, both pickleball and basketball for use of the general public. We're kind of creating this as part of our continued investment in Southside and the Southside Works. As you may be aware, we've recently completed the conversion of the movie theater to the box office, and we're tenanting the ground floor retail spaces there with great entertainment and food and beverage options. If you've been to the Southside Works recently, you'll see that we've made kind of a mess of the old town square. And as Teresa's highlighting there, and the stretch of road between South 27th Street and South 28th Street that we're now calling Dog Park, as we endeavor to make a new public dog park and a town square that is updated and more suitable to today's environment, and kind of creating an outdoor food court. In line with the park, which just broke ground last week, our multifamily product along the waterfront, and of course, in concert with our summer concert series and winter ice rink at the North Lot there that we are going to continue to do this summer, the summer concert series. We're creating this whole ecosystem, and we thought this piece of the property is underutilized. We thought a public sport court may be a good thing to introduce here. So again, I'll let Teresa and Nathan explain a little bit more about our plan here, but looking forward to discussing this with you all and getting your feedback. and creating another great public amenity in the South Side and the Southside Works. So with that, I'll turn it over to Teresa.
Good evening, everybody. So as Chris said, I'm going to pick up where he left off. Essentially, this is the location of the sport court with the current corner. This is the corner of 28th Street and Tunnel Boulevard. So as Chris said, the lot is currently vacant. And the idea is to take that parcel and actually touch very lightly on the impact that we're having on the parcel. So the intent is to not disrupt the much of the lawn or the trees, but really come in and put a sport court lightly within that area. The area is less than 5,000 square feet, and it will not be protruding onto the public right of way. We'll be staying within the boundaries of the property lines, and really just being able to provide this amenity so that the multi-use, it can be pickleball, it can be a sport court, it can be basketball, and you can imagine kids here coming to play Foursquare and just a host of games that could be played here. And the existing photos here, so that you can get oriented to the site. So this is South Water Street, and you can see how it's very flat as it is. And these are the four corners of that area with, you can see again, it's a very flat area, and the trees are going to remain. We're not going to need to remove any of the trees. They're very mature. We'd like to keep them on the site and preserve the trees. So we're actually working within the boundaries of the tree line as well to not disturb the existing mature trees or the landscaping for that matter. So we're all within the boundaries of that. There are existing sidewalks that go along South Water Street and 28th. There is not currently one along Tunnel Boulevard, and there is just a stone dust trail, as you can see here. Those are the existing conditions, and again, we plan on maintaining those conditions as is and just focus on the sport court itself. So you can see here we have the existing conditions and the proposed. So the rendering is interesting because really there will be a fence that will surround it. It's a 10-foot high fence, which is necessary in order to have the basketball hoops be set at the regulation height. And then this way the fence will, for safety, will keep the balls contained within the park, so that when, be it kids or adults playing, that it would be for safety reasons, we would need to keep the fence that high so that balls don't go on the street, and keeping everybody safe. We are applying for a zoning variance for that because it does exceed the allowable fence height. So we will be submitting for that variance as well as part of the process of the planning review. Again, you can see that we're keeping all the trees with the existing and with the new. And in the entrance, it will be on South Water Street would be the entrance of the where the gates are into access into the fenced in area. One of the things to always take into consideration is the context and the height of the building. So again, we want this to be very transparent. We want it to be very open. We want to maintain that park feel. And you can see again, sort of how it just keeps that open corridor of the Tunnel Boulevard with the view corridors that you see. So there'll be no obstructions along the way as far as that's concerned. Also wanted to point out that this would be a daytime operation in terms of the intent. We're not planning on adding lighting so that it would be, a night use. The intent that it would be for a daytime use. The existing lighting along the park will remain, and so it's very adequate right now. It lights the sidewalks well. It keeps the area safe, and that's the intent, that it would be for daytime use and not having night lighting that would add to the keeping the night environment as it is now. Again, it's, the idea is to provide amenity for multi-use space. And, and as far as access and connection with the riverfront and what we're doing with town center, and as well as the tunnel, the dog park that's under construction right now. This is our general plan. We're hoping to get this open this summer with the intent of getting Planning Commission agenda for June 14th is our targeted date for getting on their agenda, and getting approvals by the end of June, so that we can there's not a lot of construction involved in installing the court. It's a very simple process in terms of the preparation of the earth. And again, it's going to be a sport court type surface in the fencing. So this is our general schedule, and waiting for approvals and construction. As you can see here, like I said, it's a very simple process in terms of the installation of the sport court itself. Nathan or Chris, anything to add?
No, I think you hit the high points pretty well here. Yeah, I think, the one thing is we see this as a relatively low impact, right? It's basically slab on grade and sport court surface on top of that, and potentially high return, right? People are going to enjoy this. They have an area to use it. I know the American Eagle folks, there you can see their building there in that picture. The head of facilities there is very excited about this. She can't seem to find a pickleball court in Pittsburgh, and now it would be one at her doorstep. Similarly, we think folks at the box office, future tenants may think this is an attractive amenity, and just overall to the people that live in the Southside and future residents in both our future riverfront property and those that are existing. So if there are no, we'll open it up to questions, or happy to answer any questions the group here may have.
And I'm happy to flip back to any pages if there's anything in particular you'd like to see in the presentation.
Okay, before we go into the Q&A, can we just go over a little administrative item? Because you mentioned you were going to go to the June 14th planning meeting presentation. I believe with a dam meeting, we're required to have 30-day review period for the community.
I think that's a briefing, because
Okay.
the approval would be 2 weeks later, and that's
Okay.
when the 30 days would count.
Okay, all right, thank you. So we have enough time then for them to make the next planning meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you,
But are you going to the ZBA first before Planning Commission, or were you planning to go after?
Concurrent, I believe, is what we were instructed we should be doing.
Because again, I do believe there's that 30-day period with after the dam, and then zoning does not make their decision at the hearing. They take 45 days in order to do their research, and so that 45 days is going to take a while. So you may want to look into that.
Noted. Yeah, I think we were projecting this schedule because we would love to have it open by the middle of July. We understand that there are probably some other sequencing things we have to go through. We're actively engaged with Ann Kramer, and who's kind of been helping us through a lot of our other products around here. So we will make sure we have this timeline ironed out in accordance with the boxes we need to check through city planning.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I
I'm
think those are easy to schedule. I think those are pretty easy to schedule, the zoning.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I'm also curious if Planning Commission will do a one and done meeting with you, or if they require the usual 2 meetings. So
Yeah,
that's something that's out there.
Teresa, you can maybe speak a little bit better to this.
Yeah.
When we started this, we thought this was actually going to be a staff approval potentially. But they kind of came back and after a little bit more review said, no, we'd like you to go through the full FLDP process.
So that we were aligned with you, Peter, just in terms of thinking that it would be, an administrative process especially since we've already presented the overall plan with all these different programming and activities. And Somera has been, doing this development on these.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hate to see process get in the way of folks playing pickleball.
Oh, Peter, man, I could bend your ear for an hour.
And just to confirm, the only reason you are going to zoning is for the variance for the fence, because you have it planned at 6 or 10 feet and the limit is at 6.
Correct. That zoning board of appeal for the ZBA, but in terms of planning commission, we are required that zoning has asked us to go through the full the presentation, the pre-meeting as well as the full meeting
Okay.
requirement by the planning department.
Okay.
I think the pre-meeting is that June 14th. Is that correct? And then
Correct. Yes.
the meeting when they will provide give their decision, that would be the June 28th.
Correct. That's correct.
And the June 28th, that would be a hearing. So public testimony would be allowed for that one. But for the briefing on the 14th, it would not be open to public testimony.
Yep.
And it looks like Quaylin has her hand up.
I do. I just have a couple of questions. So you're saying daytime only, right? So what do you see the hours as being? I mean, is there going to be a lock to the fence? How are you going to sort of regulate the use of it?
That's a great question. So yeah, daytime only, we call it, dawn to dusk type activity. I think really what we're getting at is we don't have lights on the court. We just have those street lights that you see. And Southside Works, the property has 24/7 security. So it can be another round on the security check where, the nighttime security puts a lock on the fence, and we can manage it that way. Will probably be how we work through that.
Okay, and so people can just go as they will, and if somebody's already using it, they just have to either wait their turn or whatever, right? I'm
Yeah,
not
so
trying to complicate this. I'm trying to sort of look at what are some of the potential things that could come up.
Right. So that's a great question too. So we thought about that, and every basketball and sport court, throughout the area, is kind of a first come, first served. But if this becomes a really popular, destination, we find a lot of people are interested in using it at the same time. Maybe we go to an online reservation system through the Southside Works website, right, where you can reserve the court. And we may have to go through a reservation system, but it could, we're going to kind of cross that bridge when we get there, I think. But definitely things we've thought about.
Okay, good. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a question on top of that in regards to security. Since this is a public court, the public courts around here can get fairly rough. And so I was just curious of how you're going to monitor that, being that this is, I consider, private property and not public. And I see that it is sort of away from the residential units, but it is directly across from the hotel. So our public courts tend to have, people play their butts off, but don't be surprised if it smells like weed and people are drinking there at the same time. So I just wanted to bring that up due to the location and the fact that it is public, that you may need to increase your security capacity, or at some point this, your programming might have to change.
Right. No, it's a great thought. And again, it's one of those things, Jackie, we weigh, the thought or the conception sometimes of a urban sport court or urban basketball court, and what those can be, what those can become, or any basketball court,
Sure.
What they can become, an attractive nuisance or a place for people that, to loiter or gather against a great amenity that we know that people actually do use, right? Like you said, people playing their butts off. So we do have to balance that. We're actually, looking into potentially upping security, just the overall with the climate of the South Side and the fact that we are actively programming a lot more spaces, right? The both public spaces and the retenanting, Pins Mechanical is going to be across the street. That's going to be a great destination, 30,000 square feet for people to come and enjoy themselves, have a few beers, duck pin bowling, bring families, right? So, we want to make sure that it's kind of for everyone. And we also want to make sure it's a safe environment. So we're weighing that, we're definitely evaluating those, not just specifically for this piece of the puzzle, but programmatically overall.
We have another hand up.
Mike McKay?
Yeah.
Mike McKay, also known as Jackie Kaiser. I have a question here on down at 12th Street, or it's also known as Armstrong. The basketball court down there in past years has always had leagues playing down there. So you'd have to somehow monitor that so that the leagues don't start up here also. Once the leagues take over, then nobody else gets to use them.
Right.
And the other thing is, you guys aren't going to supply any kind of basketballs or pickleballs or equipment of any sort, right?
No, it'd be bring your own equipment. The nets and the hoops will be there, obviously. But yeah, it would be bring your own equipment. And Mike, I'd say that maybe even we may want to actually go find leagues to come and have a league night here, so that they know they have dedicated time to play on this court. This is kind of anecdotal, but the ice rink that was up, we actually found some junior league hockey players to come and play and have a hockey tournament one Saturday morning. So, that could actually be something we partner with a group and have people that come down and use this as a league night on a dedicated time. And maybe that prevents them from taking over the court right when they know they have their time. But
Right.
but great thoughts.
Yeah, you just got to make sure that don't get out of hand. But
Right.
All right, good.
So is it BYO net for pickleball?
We gotta, again, how we program that is it pickleball on Tuesday mornings and basketball on Tuesday nights. We kind of gotta think through that, how we manage that on a day-to-day basis. But the operations, I'd say, are not, there's no silver bullet, one size fits all answer here. So it could be a little bit of trial and error, but our activation partner, Canadev, who kind of is going to be managing some of the other public spaces, we may kind of have to open that up to them as okay, can you help us figure out what the right program is? Like I mentioned, the reservation system, we may have to, cross that bridge there too. I think it all depend on how successful and how much use this court gets. We're hoping it becomes a draw. And if it gets out of control, we'll have to find a way to manage it appropriately.
Yeah, I did want to say that, as Mike mentioned, Armstrong Park, there is a tennis court there that has no net and is never used other than kids possibly running around in it. And we had petitioned the city to make that into a pickleball court, and we're unsuccessful at this point, but we do plan to continue to pursue that. So having an outdoor pickleball court on Southside, I think is appreciated. I believe that I've been told that the Market House does have indoor pickleball courts, but I can't speak to where they would be. I know they do have a basketball court, and it may be in the same space and used at different times.
One other thing I was just thinking here, what was I thinking? Oh, wow. You had mentioned, you said like maybe pickleball in the morning, and probably just a misspeak, but you said basketball at night. And obviously it's nothing at night, just when it's till the sun goes down.
Yeah, evening time, yeah.
Okay, and then the other thing is that court presents one heck of a big canvas. And as we see a lot of places in Southside, the graffiti gets really out of hand, and there's no way to stop it. So your security should be aware of what goes on there in the evenings, when nobody's watching.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's something we're planning for. It's sometimes the unfortunate side effect of having more people to the area, right? Which we're really hoping to drive, right? More people back to Southside Works as we come out of COVID and as we reposition some of the properties down here. But yeah, point taken, Mike. We do have to keep our eye on it, and our property management team has already kind of planted those seeds of, hey, we need to be thinking about what happens as we go through the summer. These spaces start to turn over, become activated, and open up, right? So through the summer, our public space projects will complete. Pins Mechanical will open up in August, September, and other F&B and ground floor retailers will open up too. That will create additional draw.
Okay. There's no plan for anything in the winter, right? Once it gets cold out and snow on the ground?
Not on this court, unless someone wants to play some snowball.
I have a couple of observations and a question. Maybe you know or don't. My business partner, who sits behind me, who's left for the day, is the author of the Southside Works Design Guidelines. So we're pretty familiar with the content of that document. And I was just going through it, comparing, what's in this presentation versus what's in the guidelines. And I want to commend you for preserving the street trees at the perimeter of what the design guidelines called Tunnel Park. It's that long stretch of green space that covers the lid of a CXS railway tunnel. And because of the nature of the construction, as a concrete lid and sides, but the only opportunity for large trees are at the very edges of it, which is where the existing trees are planted. So preserving those is wonderful. Thank you. So glad you can get a sports court to fit in those dimensions. The one question I have, though, is part of the design guidelines aims to minimize impervious surface. Now, I realize, this tunnel park, this long linear park is mostly lawn, grass, etc. You have a dog park, that's impervious. And I'm wondering about the sports court. Have you been investigating impervious surface sports courts for this, or would you expect the runoff would just go into the other pervious areas of the lawn?
So we haven't. So thank you for your question, and we're glad to keep and preserve the street trees. I think that's something we were highly aware of, not only when we are doing undertaking the dog park renovation, but also even the town center, right, and preserving the streetscape, and so to speak, in the feel and how it's meant to be designed. We're not trying to drastically alter those things, and we had to modify it a little bit. And we have a couple trees that were here and there, but yeah, we're all for that and preserving that. On the impervious versus pervious coverage, we haven't studied a pervious sport court surface in this application. The court surface we're using is very commonly used in a lot of high schools and municipal parks. It's a local installer. Names escape me at the moment, but local installer is going to install this. It actually is, a sport court surface that sits on top of a small concrete slab, like a 4-inch concrete slab, to make sure it maintains level. And yes, the intent would be for it to kind of be graded such that it distributes evenly over onto the remaining of the pervious coverage, which is really, 4 to 6 feet of fill above an impervious surface. That's the train tunnel, as you know.
All right. I mean, eliminating runoff and stormwater surcharge is really the goal.
Right. So our intent is to have the runoff, I guess, be graded in a way that's not going to overload of any one inlet, right, or any long.
So it perks on site, you're not going to put it down the drain.
Right.
Perfect.
And Peter, we also minimize the area, which was the other goal of this, was to not exceed 5,000 square feet, which is the threshold when you start impacting these stormwater management systems. And so per code, that is the threshold amount. So we worked very hard to kind of lay this out so that we could keep it under that threshold and not have an impact on the stormwater systems.
Excellent. Thank you.
Sure.
Here's a question from Jackie about the fences. Did you have images with the type of fence that you're planning to install?
I think you have the render is the closest we can come to it right there on
Yeah.
page 7. It's a black fenced mesh chain link fence, I believe.
The idea would be to match it to the dog park fence that we intend to install, where currently we have a product it's not a chain link fence, it's sort of a vertical grid wire fence. And
I think it's number 8.
well,
We don't have, that's just a hatch. We don't have actual photos. If you give me a minute while we continue discussing, I can find an image.
in your team.
And that's what's going up at dog park.
Yes, so this was,
Yeah, it won't be exactly like that, but it will be black. And you know, with an intent to match the feel. Won't be like a stainless steel or not stainless steel.
galvanized.
Galvanized, yeah, it won't
Yeah.
be just the galvanized
Galvanized.
gray. Yeah, there'll be a finish to it.
So that's what we tried to show in the renderings, that there will be a nice finish to it in the black so that it does really stay transparent, because, and that there is not a lot of obstruction or any density in that fencing, so that you can still see through and have it be very transparent in its appearance.
I also think hearing that it complements or will be similar to the dog park fence shows continuity in the different sites, the different sections of the tunnel park. So I appreciate that.
Does anyone else have any other questions on the call? Mike McKay, you are on mute.
Okay, I just thought of something. If you go back to that plan view of the site there. Can you zoom up on that?
Or can,
Okay, the actual playing area is, I guess, what's colored on mine, looks like a gold or some type.
correct.
And that, okay, and then there's 4 foot all around. Is that 4 foot like just for spectators to stand around and watch?
Actually, it's more of an overplay space. So, when you're playing, you need to have your sidelines to play basketball for the out of bounds and that type of thing. So it's not really intended for spectators to collect inside of the fence and watch. And I think if there's going to be spectators, they're probably more likely to be outside of the fence rather than inside.
Okay, so that 4 foot part is actual, the perimeter of the fencing.
Correct, yes. So
Okay,
Here,
Okay.
the dotted black line is the perimeter of the fence.
Okay,
Okay, and then the
all
goal
right,
is the playing surface with the 4-foot border perimeter.
okay. And those arrows up are where you'll have access to the courts, the 2 entries.
Correct. We're going to have one coming from each direction on South Water Street.
Okay. Maybe you ought to put a couple park benches around there on the outside so people can sit and watch.
That is a good idea.
I'm big on park benches anymore.
We have some benches. We can put them out there. We may actually have to relocate a bench to do this too, but
Okay,
yeah. And, of course, when we get out there, if things shift a little bit, if 4 foot becomes 3 foot, because we want to make sure we're not interrupting one of those trees, we'll make that adjustment. We're
Great.
really just trying to, again, I think Teresa, you put it very well. We're trying to lightly place this sport court on the parcel here. And I will make note, just so in the interest of clarity and transparency, we actually don't own this piece of the property. The URA owns it, but we'll be doing this similarly how we're doing the dog park under a license agreement with the URA. And we have the maintenance obligations for all of the tunnel park, as well as 10 years of maintenance obligations for the South Shore Riverfront Park. So this just extends naturally up from South Shore Riverfront along the river's edge up into the Southside Works campus proper. We maintain all of those as part of the property management effort here at Southside Works and all the other buildings that Somera Road owns. So it's part of our maintenance obligation.
Thanks for that information, Chris.
Mm-hmm. And so when we're in active discussions with the URA, I mean, we work with them very, very closely, obviously. And so we're in discussions with them. We'll have a license agreement formalized here to do this, probably before we go to Planning Commission.
Are there any other questions from anyone that joined the call tonight? No? Okay. Well, thanks for the presentation, Somera Road and AE7, another nice amenity at the Southside Works, nice public amenity, I should say, at the Southside Works. It's nice to see. Any additional comments that anyone has tonight or that would view this presentation after tonight can be shared with the Southside Community Council via email. This project will present in front of the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Adjustments. More information can be found at the 2 links below. And if you want to provide additional public comment, you can email testimony to the Planning Commission at planningcommission@pittsburghpa.gov. And it must be received by noon 1 business day before the meeting. Or you could send a snail mail letter to 200 Ross Street, 4th floor, Pittsburgh 15219. You can also join the virtual Planning Commission and Zoning Board meetings and use the raised hand function to request to speak or call in via the directions below. So if no one has anything else, I think we can adjourn tonight. Visit the Southside Community website for any follow-up information at www.southsidecommunitycouncil.org. You can view past dams on our website via the YouTube page. And you can also sign up for our monthly newsletter by going to the Southside Community Council website. Our next dam is scheduled for June 16th, and we already do have one presentation on the agenda and possibly 2. So hope to see you all that were regular attendees here next month as well. Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Yep, have a good
Thanks,
evening.
everyone.